and welcome to the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment, continuing my 2016 NFL season recaps and 2017 previews. And today we are talking about the San Diego Chargers, and this was, to say the least, a very disappointing year for the San Diego Chargers, going 5-11 just 1 year after going 4-12. And last year we told ourselves, oh, it's okay, it was just one bad year, it's because of injuries, whatever, they'll bounce back. Well, they bounced back a little bit. They got one more win, but still a disappointing season in San Diego. Mike McCoy, the head coach, is now gone, and this team will endure some changes over the next coming months. But let's look back to 2016 before we look to the future. Let's start with some key games from this season. And to me, we have to look at that first game against the Kansas City Chiefs, losing 33-27 after you were up early in this football game. I believe 24-0, maybe 24-3. Very much a big lead after the first half of this football game, but then allowing the Chiefs to come all the way back, allowing this game to go to overtime, and then losing to overtime. This set the tone for the early part of this Chargers season, which was choking leads. We look at the next week, though. You guys go blow out Jacksonville, and we say, okay, this is the potential that this Chargers team has, and by far, this was their most impressive win of the season. The next week after that, you guys blow a lead again as you let T.Y. Hilton streak down the field for a touchdown. The week after that, you blow a lead again as you let Melvin Gordon and Travis Benjamin fumble this game away. The week after that, you lose a close game to the Oakland Raiders. So 3 huge losses there. You guys bounce back with a nice win against Denver on Thursday night, a nice win in Atlanta, and today we know Atlanta is now 11-5. Great win there. But then from there, things got a little up and down, but it was fine. But then the thing to me that really hurt was then the 5-game losing streak to end the season, losing to Tampa Bay, losing to Carolina, losing to Oakland, losing to the Cleveland Browns. And that's the most key game of all. That showed that, man, this Chargers team is not well coached, cannot go to Cleveland, having already lost 3 straight games, go there and lose to Cleveland. Then to, what were they, 0-14 Cleveland Browns at that time. You can't do it. They did it. Unexcusable from the San Diego Chargers. So let's look at the individual performances from this season. Now, let's start with the offensive side of things. And I like to pick an offensive MVP. And this was tough for me because Phillip Rivers, usually he'd be the guy, no question. But man, I wasn't very impressed with Phillip Rivers this year, and I'm going to get more into that in a second. So you know what? To me, it was actually close between Tyrell Williams and Matt Slauson, the center for this football team, both of them ahead of Phillip Rivers. So I ended up giving it to Tyrell Williams, and I'm going to tell you why. Let's start with Phillip Rivers. Okay, let's start with my problems with Phillip Rivers from this season. 21 interceptions. And I know what you are going to say. Well, it's because the protection wasn't very good. It's because the receivers weren't good. It's because of this. It's because of that. Look, I sat down because I really wanted to find out why. What happened? What caused Phillip Rivers to throw the most interceptions he ever threw in his entire life? 21 interceptions. I sat down and I watched every single one of them. And man, I got to tell you, at least 75% of them, at least, were on Phillip Rivers, trusting his receivers too much, making throws he shouldn't make, throwing the deep ball, testing safeties, not seeing linebackers. Plenty of bad plays on Phillip Rivers. He was throwing the ball like he had Mike Evans and Kelvin Benjamin on either side to 6'5" wide receivers like Julio Jones. He acted like he has 3 or 4 6'4", 6'5" wide receivers that could go up and grab footballs out of the sky. You don't have those wide receivers. To me, he tested these wide receivers too much, and he should have came back a little bit and said, man, I'm pressing too much. You didn't see a lot of linebackers, and to me, this offense ended up being a little too complex. And I look at Ken Wisenhunt, and I understand they had success back in 2013, but they weren't doing a lot of the complex things they were doing this year. Every single play, it seemed like Phillip Rivers changing stuff at the line of scrimmage, and it really not really working out. I'm not sure what they were doing offensively this year. I look at Mike McCoy as well, being at fault for that, but Phillip Rivers threw a lot of passes this year that simply he should not have thrown. 21 interceptions, way too high. He's still good. He's still a good quarterback. Okay, I'm not saying he's Blake Bortles, but he's not the MVP for me for this football team. And let's call it what a year. Let's call it what it is. This was a bad year for him. Now, a bad year for him in terms of the NFL, it's still probably an average year. If we're ranking the 32 quarterback performances from just this year, he probably ranks about 16. But we expect better from him. And I want to get into this. You know, some people think it's because he's getting old. I don't think so. I think it was just a bad year. I think he was pressing too much. He really did not want to have another losing season, and he was making throws he shouldn't have made. I did see, though, he was underthrowing some balls. Okay, so perhaps that has to do with age, but I think it's more mental than physical with Philip Rivers right now. He's only 35, and he turned 35 in December. I think he's fine physically in terms of age, but mentally, he's going to have to do some work in the offseason with the new head coach in terms of drawing back and not pressing too much, relying on his defense that is actually pretty freaking talented. Now, let's look at the offensive line. King Dunlap on one side. I almost said Carlos Dunlap. King Dunlap on one side. He continues to be okay. Look at the guard positions. We have Orlando Franklin, who actually played most of the games this season, if not all of them. And, you know, I did see some miscommunications there. I think they haven't really got him ingratiated in the offensive line. And I saw some misassignments and whatnot from him. He needs to improve next year. Matt Slauson at center. He did a good job. The right guard, DJ Fluker. His move to guard, I'd say it was okay. I didn't think he was a very bad right tackle. I don't know why they were so enthused to move him to right guard, but I thought he was okay. But the right tackle, Joe Barksdale, what a horrible year from Joe Barksdale. 10.5 sacks allowed this year from Joe Barksdale. He wasn't great last year. I don't know why they re-signed him this year. 10.5 sacks allowed. Inexcusable, terrible year from Joe Barksdale. Look at the tight ends. Antonio Gates and Hunter Henry. They formed a nice tight end duo. They're definitely good. Gates is getting old, but still pretty productive. I like that Kansas City Chiefs touchdown he had week 17. We look at the wide receivers, and, you know, a lot of people are concerning or just have concern about these wide receivers, and I really don't know why. I thought they did pretty good. Now, Tyrell Williams did have a number of drops. In fact, he had 5, okay, which is way too much, but I liked how he played, man, and being an undrafted rookie, yeah, I'm not sure if he's a rookie this year or he's like a second-year player, but this guy is absolutely tremendous. You look at Travis Benjamin, yes, he was a little inconsistent, but the guy caught the deep ball pretty well, had the fumble, and had some drops, but I thought he was pretty good. Dontrell Inman, you know, for what he was supposed to do before the season, just being like a 5th wide receiver, ending up being a nice guy, getting 800 yards, I think he's good. Some people talk about this wide receiver position, and they say, hey, the Chargers need to upgrade. Their wide receivers aren't good enough. Take Mike Williams in the first round. I'm like, are y'all nuts? I think these 3 aren't bad. You add in Keenan Allen. You add in Stevie Johnson. Why the hell do you need a wide receiver? To me, you don't. Look at the running backs. Melvin Gordon. Now, he only had 3.9 yards per carry. But the one thing that I like is that when Kenneth Farrow went in there, we saw, oh, wait a minute, maybe Melvin Gordon's actually pretty good. Because this Farrow kid ain't getting nothing behind this offensive line. Okay, so that was something of note. Also, Melvin Gordon did make a better impact in the receiving game. So I like Melvin Gordon right now. We look at Farrow stunk, and Andre Williams the last week was actually decent, so we'll see what he does in the future. And then, unfortunately, Danny Woodhead got injured this year. Look at the defense. And by the way, the clowns of the year for this football team was Mike McCoy and Joe Barksdale. Horrible year from Joe Barksdale. Look at the defense. The defensive line. Let's start with Joey Bosa, who plays kind of on the defensive line, kind of stands up. We knew he was going to be that kind of hybrid in this defense, and he has been. But, man, this guy is incredible. Remember last year, everyone was saying, oh, Bosa's going to be a bust. He's not giving effort, blah, blah, blah. He was number 1 on my draft board. He was number 1 on my big board. Go back and watch my scouting report. I said this guy's going to be a freaking beast, and he's even better than I imagined. This guy's been incredible. I saw in the Kansas City game, he got a run stuff. He got second down. He got pressure. Third down, got a sack. That is just killing a drive. And one player doing that, that's incredible. You look at Melvin Ingram. A great year from him. He's a linebacker, but still. Let's look at the actual defensive line now. Brandon Mebane. Okay, so I liked him. I thought he did very well against the run. The problem is he doesn't get much of a pass rush, but whatever. Corey Liuget, up and down. He can get a number of tackles for loss. He can get into the behind the line of scrimmage, but a little inconsistent and not very disciplined. Look at Damon Square. He was all right, but the defensive line to me was a little underwhelming. I'm looking to upgrade that position if I'm the San Diego Chargers. Now let's look at the inside linebackers now. Denzel Perryman, Jatavis Brown, Joshua Perry. I like them all. Jatavis Brown, very good in coverage. Against the run, needs to improve. He has a small frame, so it's going to be tough for him, but I really liked his play in coverage. Manti Tyrell was injured, so that was unfortunate. Look at the outside linebacker depth a little bit. Jeremiah Tautshu and what's his name? Kyle Emmanuel. They're pretty good backups. I was a little disappointed, though. I expected a little more from them, but they didn't get much snaps, so I won't hold them to that too much. Let's look at the secondary. Cornerbacks. Casey Hayward, what a fantastic year. Cannot believe the Green Bay Packers let this man go. 7 interceptions, leading the league. Fantastic. Now, he's not a shutdown corner, though. He will give up some receptions, especially to the best wide receivers in the league, but he's a damn good corner, right? And you're lucky to have him. If you can get him and Verrett healthy, man, you look at Brandon Flowers, a nice year. After what was a disappointing year to me last season, did not stay healthy, right? But when he played, I thought he was pretty good. You look at this Trevon Reed guy, this Trovone, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but I know his last name's Reed, number 38. I liked him. Got like 2 interceptions, 3 pass defense in limited snaps. I like this guy. Maybe you have something in this guy. Look at the safeties. Jahleel Addae played pretty well at strong safety to me this year. I was very surprised by his play. And then free safety Dwight Lowry missed some assignments, missed some tackles in the run game. They may need to improve that spot. Now let's look at the future a little bit. But actually, before we look at the future, let's look back to the 2016 draft for this football team. So Joey Bosa, they drafted him. I gave it an A-. The only reason there was a minus there was because I wasn't sure how much of a fit he'd be, but he's been a great fit, so that's an A. We look at Hunter Henry. I gave that pick an A-. It's been an A-. We look at Max Turk. I gave that pick an A-. He didn't play this year, so it had to be downgraded a little bit, but he could still end up being an A- or even an A. Joshua Perry, I gave it a B, and I think it's been a B. Jatavis Brown, though, I was wrong on this guy. I thought it was just too small, and he's proven to be a lot better than I thought he would be. I gave it a D+ at the time. He's been a lot better than that, I tell you of that. And I gave this whole Chargers draft class a B+. I like the Drew Kaiser pick, gave it a B. The Derek Watt pick, gave it a B. The Donovan Clark pick, I gave it a C+. I think this class has proven to be better than that B+. I mean, maybe actually just about that B+. Because Max Turk has not played, it's actually about that B+. If Max Turk plays and he's good, it could definitely be an A. If he plays, he's decent, A-. If he's a disaster, then B+. We'll see. All right, so now let's look ahead to the 2017 offseason for this San Diego Chargers team. This Chargers team is scheduled to have $26 million in cap room, and that is a little small. And also, when I look at some potential room they could shelve out, it's not great. Brandon Flowers, they could cut. But outside of him, there's not many moves they can make. Corey Liuget, they could also cut, but there'd be a lot of dead cap there because they just re-signed him like a year ago. So this is pretty much the cap room they're going to have. Maybe they restructure somebody or something there, but this cap room will prove to be a little bit of a hindrance. There will not be big free agent signings this year for the San Diego Chargers. Now, especially when we look at their key free agents, let's start looking there. Melvin Ingram, the edge rusher who they need to re-sign, and it's going to be a tough negotiation because, again, the cap space is limited, and you're going to be picking somewhat high in the draft again. You're going to have to dedicate, I would say, $8 million to your draft class. You look at Melvin Ingram, you're going to have to dedicate, if you want to re-sign him, probably more than $10 million per year. It's going to be a tough negotiation for Melvin Ingram, but I would really try to re-sign him. If you can pair him and Joey Bosa together for the next, probably 5 to 10 years, we're talking about a nice duo in San Diego or LA. We look at the other free agents, Danny Woodhead. It's kind of sad to say, but it's kind of good he got injured for monetary sakes, because now you can re-sign him to a 1 year, maybe $4 million deal, maybe $3 million deal. You don't spend much cap space there. Look at Jahleel Addae. I think he's gone. He's going to be too expensive with the cap space that they have. I see this. I pretty much see there being no chance here. Look at Sean Lissemore. He didn't play this year, right? He got on injured reserve early. No need to re-sign him. Maybe to like a 1 year prove-it deal, but he wasn't great anyway, and I'm not very interested in him. Manti didn't play much either, so again, you got to get a little lucky. Maybe we can re-sign him to a small little deal, and he'll stay. Maybe. All right, and he likes San Diego a little bit. He likes being close to the Polynesian countries. So, let's look at team needs. So to me, number one, right tackle. Joe Barksdale, I'm not sure his contract. I think it's a little rich, but I don't care. The guy stinks. You got to improve your right tackle position. Phillip Rivers only got sacked like 36 times this year, a third of which was dedicated to Joe Barksdale, okay? You gotta upgrade the right tackle position. I look at defensive end. I don't like Corey Legion anymore. I think he's not disciplined enough. And Damon Square, he's not very good either. Let's upgrade our defensive line once and for all. Luckily, last year, you guys finally let go of Kendall Reyes. Thank God. Now, let go of Corey Legion, and let's finally move on. Let's get a safety. Now, I don't care if it's a free safety. I don't care if it's a strong safety or both. If you guys let go of Jahleel Addae, it needs to be a strong safety. If you guys let go of Jahleel Addae and you still want to improve, it needs to be a free safety too. If you guys keep Jahleel Addae, it can be a free safety, because I think their safeties need a little help. They weren't great, especially in the run game, so improve there. Jahleel Addae was good, but again, Dwight Larry wasn't very impressed. We look at edge rusher. If you guys let go of Melvin Ingram, you're going to need another guy to me. Yes, we like a Tauchu, but man, I'm not sure if he's ready to be the guy. We saw him last year being the guy next to Melvin Ingram, and he was all right, but I count that as a need. We look at cornerback. And to me, it's not a huge need, but I'm sick of our cornerbacks getting injured. Jason Verrett injured. Brandon Flowers missed like half the year. Let's go ahead and get some depth there, just in case if one of them goes down again, we're ready to go. Now let's look at some potential free agent acquisitions. Let's start with offensive tackles. Reiff of the Detroit Lions, Ricky Wagner of the Baltimore Ravens, Sebastian Vollmer of the New England Patriots, Mike Remmers of the Carolina Panthers, and Menelik Watson of the Oakland Raiders. All would be right tackles. Good. When you look at defensive ends, 3-4 defensive ends, Calais Campbell of the Arizona Cardinals, Chris Baker. This would be a great fit. He might want a little more money than he can afford, but Chris Baker of the Washington Redskins would be a nice fit here. Nick Fairley, this could be good. He loves signing these 1 year deals where he goes somewhere and he plays pretty well, right? He did it in New Orleans. He can do it here. I like Nick Fairley. But the problem is, again, will you have enough money to even afford a lot of these guys? I'm not sure. Look at safety. I included this name, but you guys probably won't be able to afford him. Eric Berry, who knows, maybe. We look at Tony Jefferson, though. Possible, more possible. Probably not going to happen, but more possible. More realistic options, though. J.J. Wilcox as strong safety. Johnathan Cyprien as strong safety. Quintin as strong safety. All viable options to me. The free safety free in the class is not great, though. If you want a free safety, you got to go in the draft. Now let's look at the draft. You guys are scheduled to have 7 draft picks, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, 7 draft picks, including projected compensatory picks. Here are some potential draft picks. Let's start with the first round, and number 1, Malik Hooker at free safety. If you guys improve or decide to improve upon your free safety position, say Dwight Larry, let's just have you on the bench for a little bit, draft Malik Hooker. It makes a lot of sense to me. But the number 1 option to me, if he's available, Jamal Adams. If Jamal Adams is available, there should not be a second wasted. You got to go straight to Roger Goodell, hand in that card saying Jamal Adams or Adams, Jamal, LSU, and turn that card in. What a fit, what a player. Jamal Adams and Joey Bosa on the same defense. My goodness. We look at Jabril Peppers. he may end up falling way out of this range, honestly, but if teams end up liking more than I think right now, he could go this high as well. Look at offensive tackle Cam Robinson. Depends how he looks in the team interviews. If he can give the answers that they like, this could also be an option here. If this team lets go of Melvin Ingram, which they certainly could, you look at some edge rushers and Tim Williams and Derek Barnett as possible options here. Maybe even Solomon Thomas, but I doubt it. Let's look at some second-round players. Free safety Budda Baker out of Washington. Offensive tackles Garrett Bowles and Roderick Johnson. Pass rushers DeMarcus Walker and DeJuan Smoot. And also Harold Landry. Look at some defensive tackles Chris Wormley, Caleb Brantley, and Carlos Watkins. Now, where can this team go in 2017? Now, I like this team. I think this roster is actually pretty freaking good. The cap space is limited, but that's because there's already talent here. You've already shelled out money for your quarterback, shelled out money for some of your defensive players as well. There's not a lot of money here because there's talent here. Okay, good. Now, can you guys find the right head coach? I would like to sign a defensive guy, but offensive guy, I think could actually be good as well because I think they need to construct an easier passing game for Philip Rivers with a lot less routes to the outside, a lot more inside routes to me, some shallow crosses, some slant routes, some nice inside routes for Philip Rivers, high percentage throws, only completed 60% of his throws this year, very uncharacteristic for Philip Rivers. So offensive coordinator also could be an option to me, but they got to improve the passing game. Philip Rivers, 21 interceptions, and also 7 fumbles, way too high. This is a team that got a lot of interceptions from Casey Hayward and a lot of other guys. Got a lot of forced fumbles this year, but still lost the turnover game. Gave up 2 more turnovers than they took away. Philip Rivers with 25. That's going to do it for you. I still like Philip Rivers, man, but we got to look and say 25 turnovers, dog. We got to look at you and we got to say, man, you got to do better than that in 2017. But if everything could go right and there's not much to do here, this is a legitimate playoff team next year, or playoff contender, I should say. Everyone's healthy, like Keenan Allen and Stevie Johnson and Jason Verrett. My God, this is definitely a playoff roster. But will that be the case? We shall see. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the San Diego Chargers 2016 season and my preview of their 2017 offseason. What are you guys' thoughts? Comment down below. I want to know. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, to subscribe. And until next time, this has been the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment, and I'm out. Peace.